Good evening, everybody, and welcome one and all. It's 9 o'clock here in the UK, so that's the standard time for the show, as always. Season 3, episode 14, 144 in total. And as you can see tonight, you have the lovely pleasure of having myself and my good friend Lorne. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, getting used to these quiet shows between you and me after this is the second week in a row. We were meant to have Mike, but things have gone a little awry tonight, so he's had to bail at the last second. Paul's out on the lash. He's just sent a photo of him sitting drinking cocktails of absinthe, and so God knows what he's going to feel like tomorrow morning. As long as he Ubers, that's the main thing, to get home.
Yeah, definitely. I think if anybody who tuned in last week realised Mike was on baby watching as he was messaging us all throughout the day. He was predicting a Friday baby, and so happened at 4 o'clock Friday morning, wasn't it? We all got a message off Mike saying little baby had arrived into the world safely. So yeah, he's now on that duty, and yeah, I think Rich as well. Yeah, Rich's little ones have hit a milestone as well. So it's all go on the daddy side, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Me, I'm just about to start teaching my son to drive as well. So that's that's how bad it is for me. So
yes, I'm on the same as you. Mine's just gone 18, and so now it's beer time and pick me up from the pub time. So yeah, I'm getting the other side of it. But yeah, so yes, I think it's going to be a bit of a mishmash thing. Mike, give us some stuff to go with. But yeah, so anybody who's tuned in tonight, be sure to drop in the comments, get involved as always, and we'll see where this takes us. So I think we'll go through first, as always. I want to find the banner because it is there somewhere. There it is. So quite a few bits and pieces to get through. Obviously, sadly, it's bye week for us, so we, in terms of any Cowboys action on the field, but get anybody who's had a few nicks and bangs, get them back up to speed. So Dak is on track after he left the stadium last week in a boot, which wasn't a happy sight for anybody. I don't think the last thing we want is Dak on any kind of injury watch. But yeah, from the looks of things, it's going to be okay for the Vikings game next week.
I think the bye weeks come at a really good time, obviously, with this. I think at the start of the season we were probably complaining that the bye week was so early, but with what's happened in the last game, I think it's a fortuitous time. One of the things I've heard is that because it's the same leg that obviously he injured last year, but that's actually given them hope, because if he had a problem with the other leg, then there's a concern that he's maybe been putting too much pressure on it, compensating for the injury last year. So the fact that it's the same foot that he's injured on suggests that it's nothing. It is just a freak accident that's happened. It's nothing that's come as a result of his routine or playing, and overcompensating for last year's injury. So.
No, definitely. I say, it wasn't good to see on it, but fingers crossed. Like I say, it's just a precaution, and we've got no to worry about. Kennedy is in put my teeth in concussion protocol. That's another one. That's another one of the defensive players that we don't want to see out. He's done well, and he's stepped in, and the stage of the season we're getting at to now, nicks and bangs are going to happen. But when there's players like this that are making big plays, the last thing you want to see them out.
Yeah. I mean, again, we've got players that are coming back, already activated the 21-day practice window for Joseph and what have you. So if Kennedy does have to sit for a while, obviously you got Joseph. You could swap them about on the IR. We basically have to activate Joseph after 3 weeks, otherwise, he remains on IR for the rest of the season. So again, it's maybe good timing. You've got the bye week that you can rest him up, and hope he can be back. If not, you could always switch them around and sit Kennedy for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Give Joseph a chance to get some reps.
Yeah, you're saying that's the one Mike threw on the list there. So yeah, so we take a nice sideway step. So another biggie for us who seems going to be okay for the Vikings game, Tyron Smith. We know his injury issues have been up and down the last few years, but let's say that still one of the top, you would probably say, 3 top 5 tackles in the game. Last thing you want is him out again and having a patched up line on that side anyway. Yep.
I mean, again, you wonder the couple of penalties that he gave up in the New England game. You got to wonder if that's, obviously there was concerns about his neck and shoulder. The Cowboys said it was favourable. It's obviously didn't knock him out of the game at all, but maybe it's something that will take a few weeks to fully recover. And again, maybe obviously the guy that he was going up against was going in low a lot of the time. So Tyron being 6'7" or whatever, as soon as he gets his hands up, it's always going to be quite high on you anyway. But we just need to see. And obviously the ankle, it looked bad when I think it was Zeke or Pollard went over on it and rolled up on it, but he went back into the locker room, got it retaped up, and he was back out. So he'd only missed 2 or 3 snaps. Yeah. And you got to say the 2 or 3 snaps that Ty and Zeki was in on, he actually looked quite serviceable. Now that we've got Lyle Collins coming back, you're going to have Terrence Steele potentially should be your swing tackle again. Although, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people clamoring that do you go for the top 5 offensive linemen and use them any way that you need to use them?
No, definitely. And then we'll stick on the offensive side of the ball. Michael Gallup, 2 to 4 weeks, he's been predicted to be back. These wideouts are firing all cylinders at the minute. So to add who is our natural wide receiver 3 back into that core is making it even more scary. And I didn't think it could be any more scarier than it already is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the fact that you even saw Malik Turner, who'd just been activated a couple of weeks ago off injured reserve, you saw him getting in the game, and Dak even tried throwing a deep ball to him as well, which I don't think it just bounced harmlessly out of bounds or whatever. But the fact that he was getting in on the game plan as well, bringing back guys like Gallup. I mean, all these guys that are coming off IR at the moment is going to give the front office and the coaching staff real concern about what roster moves do they make to release players. But
nice. It's definitely an interesting time. I think we're going to touch a little bit more on Gallup in a bit as well. So I think the last bit of news that we've got, Tank and Gallimore estimated to be back before Thanksgiving. Now with some of the games that's coming up, that's probably the one that worries you a little bit more, would you say?
Yeah. I think the sooner we get, I think obviously the fact that we are in the position we're in, where we're 5-1 going into the bye, I think that's given us a chance to give Gallimore a chance to get back to full strength and not rushing back out onto the field. A dislocated elbow is quite bad in that, if it's not fully healed, it's something that can rupture again, and perhaps necessitate him spending longer out. But if he can get back in, get the strength up, particularly offensive and defensive line is somewhere that you actually need, a good level of strength. It's not just in your legs, but you need to be able to push off and break away from any blocks that are going up against you. So, having Gallimore back at the right time. Interesting. What we haven't seen is any talk of Tristan Hill yet. How he's doing. We're now into week 6, so he's now eligible that we could activate him off PUP as well. He seems to be a forgotten man in some respects, but no idea how he's getting on. Hopefully we hear something soon with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. So as we said, it's bye week, which is unfortunate for us. So I think a bit later on in the show we'll discuss what it's like being a fan on bye week, what everyone's bye week plans are going to be. So be sure to send us everything in that you'll get up to on bye week. Will you watch Red Zone? Will you watch any other games? A bit of family time. So yeah, get them in and we'll go through them all a bit later on. But yeah, I think that speaking of Michael Gallup, a few reports circulating at the minute that obviously trade deadline is fast approaching, and that he will be one of the likely candidates and one of the highly sought after players that potentially could be on the market. Do you agree? Would you let him go? Would you try and re-sign him?
We've obviously discussed this ad nauseum during the off season. I think to be honest, as we've discussed, this offense is very much a pick your own poison. Why would you take away a potential weapon? And as Max Cowboys Talk has come on here and said, Cedric Wilson's good, but Gallup brings a dimension that Wilson just doesn't have. I would keep Gallup, to be honest. This is a contract year for both Gallup and Wilson, so invariably we're probably going to lose one of them this year. You're going to get a compensatory draft pick, probably as high as a 3rd round draft pick. Yes, okay, you don't get that until next year, but unless there's somebody who's desperately looking for a wide receiver, and you can get them to part with a 1st round draft pick, I would just stick with the roster we've got at the moment. Try and bring Gallup up somehow, and play it that way and deal with everything at the end of the season.
But saying that, then though, would you then kind of cut ties with Gallup in terms of what he's probably going to command compared to Cedric Wilson? I know we all discussed at the start of the year, didn't we, that potentially Gallup on some teams could be even wide receiver 1. So he's going to command a fairly massive contract. And then when you look at some of the players on this roster that's going to need a contract upgrade over the next 2-3 years, is it worth tying ourselves up with another highly paid wide receiver when CeeDee Lamb eventually is going to need a deal? Can we really afford that?
I think if it all depends on how Amari Cooper plays this season. Obviously, at the moment, I think the stat is that Cooper's caught every catchable ball that's been thrown to him. He's not been credited with any drops. If for some reason Cooper tails off towards the end of this season, then potentially there is an out on Cooper's contract that you could actually get out this year, and with some of that the money that you save, then potentially you could sign Gallup for a deal that's just below that, and then go into next year with Gallup and CeeDee Lamb as your 1 and 2 wide receivers. Realistically, hopefully the guys have been front office. If they are looking to sign him this year and get him on a cap friendly deal, then you should be in discussions right now. But then we obviously we've parted ways with somebody this season that signed a cap-friendly deal a couple of years ago, and as soon as invariably if they sign what's known as a cap-friendly deal, everything tails off a little bit, and that certainly happened with the guy that's now wearing number 9 up in Wisconsin at the moment. So
it's contract year always scares me a little bit, and I think also Cowboys have been burnt a few times. Look at you could probably say one of the bigger ones was Miles Austin those years ago. Absolutely balled out contract year. I think was it the Chiefs game that he exploded onto scene with it about 125-yard game he had, and then never really hit the heights after that. He had a fairly decent career with us, and it was just and then you look at it on the flip side that Anthony Hitchens, he was a good linebacker for us anyway, and we were just never going to be able to compete. So it scares me sometimes. Yep.
And I mean, obviously, Hitchens has now picked up a ring with Kansas City as a fairly big feature in their defense as well. So, we'll obviously be seeing him in the future in the next couple of weeks of this season when we go up to Kansas City.
Definitely. So I think that puts in a nice little segue then. So we're going to split because obviously we've got no game this week. So there's no pre-game show. There's been no post-game show as such. So next week the guys are going to touch on one side of the ball, but this week we're going to walk through and have a chat about So this bit, a little bit of fun. Like I say, everybody join in, give us your thoughts at home, what you would do. So this week, to keep us tied over, and we're going to look at the offensive side, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. So we're going to kind of have a mini awards ceremony as we reach bye week. This is going to be fun. So as you say, the guys are going to touch on the defense next on Tuesday. So be sure to tune in for that bit and get your points across. So first one we do. To be fair, I think this is going to be a hands down all overall. Everyone's going to be the same. Who's your MVP so far this season?
Of the offense, I mean, obviously, I think you've got to say Dak. I mean, he was already going to be a comeback player of the year anyway, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that at the NFL honors. He's been in the QB rankings this week. He is the number 1 QB according to NFL.com. And he's thrown 3 interceptions this season. We've had the issues with the fumble on the goal line. Now you could argue should we have even been trying the QB sneak on the 4th down, because we actually scored on 3rd down when he was lying across the line and the ref pulls everybody up and he's lying there. I mean, obviously the debate this week is, can you put a microchip in the ball and have a laser going across the goal line? Again, that's something else that you got to load the pylon up with, that Zeke can then bang into as he's hitting the pylon. But I mean, he was across the line there. That should have been a touchdown, and we shouldn't have been talking about the fumble on 4th down. But I mean, this game actually, if nothing else, it showed that it just builds on his resume, that he has the team believing that they can do it at any point in time, and we're not seeing complete collapses this year where we have in previous years. So I think the fact that having Dak on just cements him being the team MVP this year, I think.
Do you know, funny you should touch on that, because I'm surprised that they don't have any kind of, like, we'll say goal line technology. It seems to work pretty well over here. the Premier League, don't it? For our American viewers, if they're not aware, kind of what the Premier League does is got sensors kind of in the goal area, and there's a sensor in the ball. So if the ball crosses the line, it kind of sends a signal to the ref watch and buzzes on his arm to let him know that the ball's crossed the line. So there's no need to kind of look at VAR that's used now, which is really, I say, to say that the NFL's kind of pushes technology into the new direction. I'm surprised they're a little bit behind on that one, to be honest.
Well, I mean, the story is that Tex Schramm in 1988 had actually advocated it there, but then said that, you don't want the game turning into a bit of, Sky War. I think it was Sky Wars was the reference, not so that he wasn't infringing copyrights, but, obviously the technology has moved on sufficiently in the last 30 years that it should be something you should be thinking about. And I mean, this is the second time this season that we've had that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of motion that gets put to the competition committee next year by the Cowboys. Obviously, we've got Stephen Jones on the competition committee, so it's maybe something he'll raise. But I mean, we've been done twice this season on Dak actually being in the end zone and the refs ruling that it wasn't a touchdown. So
yeah, no, definitely. I think just to touch back on Dak, Dak's definitely for me, and so DJ Dog put on there his work ethic as well, but also off the field, he's such a class act on it and such a class act off it. NFL UK touched on it on their Twitter page today that he's been writing ask for help on his wrists. Those battling with mental illness to obviously let them know that their lives matter and that they're not alone. And these players have such a massive platform, and things like this do help. And sadly, people go through things like this, and so the awareness needs to be raised. And some players you just don't see kind of doing it. And like I say, that the platform they have, it's such a massive thing. I mean, people shouldn't ever feel that they're alone and they've got someone there to talk to. So someone who's gone through a lot of things in his life, obviously doesn't want to see people suffer in kind of the ways that he does. So fair play to him. Like I say, the league could do with a lot more class acts on the field and as well off the field. I put my teeth back in. It's really nice tonight.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, if you think that, Dak's brother, obviously, Dak even had a bit of depression last year during the COVID, during the pandemic, where everybody was in lockdown, and he wasn't able to see a lot of people other than his close family that were around and what have you. He actually said that he felt depression stepping in on him. You got Michael Gallup, whose brother committed suicide a couple of years back as well. So, obviously it's hit the team in the last couple of years. It's something that should be raised awareness, and even something like that. Yes, somebody watching the game and just seeing that on his wrist. I mean, that's even if it's not being a verbal discussion about it, something like that is bringing awareness, and hopefully it gets people talking and thinking, right, well, let's not take the ultimate step, let's seek and get help first. So
yeah, I think sometimes a lot of the sayings kind of say about it, don't it, that sometimes it's the little things that help. Like you say, it doesn't have to be this huge I don't know, advert across the TV or something like that. And I don't mean that in kind of in a disrespectful way, like I say, but sometimes it just takes something like that, like someone who's into the NFL, who's going through a tough time, sees Dak Prescott doing that, and like I say, hopefully makes them think, do you know what? Yeah, I've got avenues I can go to, and I know we advocate quite a bit as well that if anybody feels lonely, I mean, our inboxes are always open. Twitter, Facebook, anything, just and it's everyone can do something to help. I mean, it's not hard. Yeah. It's not hard, is it, to sit and have a conversation with someone if someone's feeling a bit down, or like you say, it's not taking anything out of your day. It's just being a decent human being, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, like I said, because they're looking for the comments that we put up here, and our good friend Valente has said Dak NFL MVP as well. DJ Dog, all the same. So we'll move on to one that could, I don't know, could this one be the kind of the one that throws up a few different comments? So offensive lineman, who's been your MVP lineman or your favourite one so far?
I think obviously, what we've seen from Zach Martin, I think would be my bet. Obviously, you've got Tyron Smith back and he's playing healthy. That's been good, but how can you also discredit Steele? I mean, obviously, there's talk now of what do you do now that La'el Collins is back? I mean, I think the Cowboys have the game plan has been to, help him out in some respects so that he's not one-on-one. But you look at if you look at my Twitter stream, I retweeted something that was Brian Baldinger showing off what Steele was doing against Matt Judon in the New England Patriots game, and he was manhandling somebody who was basically has 6.5 sacks on the season so far.
Mm-hmm.
Was a big part of their defense. And yes, okay, Belichick was scheming to stop Zeke more than anything else, but he was still moving Judon around the line. I'll stick with Zach Martin though. I think he's been the best offensive lineman we've had this season so far.
I'm going to jump on Steele just for the fact that Zach Martin always gets a lot of accolades, and rightly so. I mean, I think we've all said on this show that he's going to go in the Hall of Fame without a doubt. But I think more so Steele just for the fact that we and not to harp on what we spoke about before, but when Tony Romo went down and Dak came in, and it was that next man up and take your chance, and that's what Dak did, and that's what Terrence Steele has done. I've always said it's probably not easy just filling in on this line, especially with it being such a dominant force and being rated over recent years as the best in the league. So I think that adds that little bit of pressure. But just to come in and I know I can't remember if was it Graham that mentioned it, that obviously when La'el Collins comes back, he will probably take Steele's place. But I think the conversation is going to be a hard one. I think it could be a split room. I would think that La'el Collins will probably get the spot back. But there'll be a lot in that room that'll advocate, say, look, Terrence Steele's he's played well. Why change it? Although Collins is a top class player, why change that winning formula?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see that as well. I think the fact that if you say well done to Steele, you sit him. Obviously, we've seen there's issues with Tyron Smith, who's obviously, if the ankle isn't 100% by next week, then you might see Steele moving across the left tackle. He will now be the swing tackle ahead of Ty Nzeki. And that's maybe something, we'll see him get on the field that way. I think, as long as La'el Collins hasn't, obviously La'el's been training the last couple of weeks. He's been able to do conditioning work within team practices. He's not been allowed to play, but he has been doing the conditioning work with Britt Brown. So he should be ready to hit the ground running. It's obviously just getting back in sync with the offensive line. I think that's something. But I mean, just the fact that even as early as pre-season this year, games 1, 2, 3, and 4, we were sitting here going, "Oh God, what we're going to do for our swing tackle?" Because we weren't impressed with Steele at that point in time. It took a lot of balls, I think, in some respects, for the Cowboys to actually stick with Steele after the off season. Obviously, we only saw the stuff that was happening in the games, and yes, when it's a mishmash of players, all trying to audition for a position, there isn't any cohesiveness. But I mean, as soon as we got past Tampa Bay and it was announced that La'el Collins was suspended for 5 games, then Steele stepped in, and I mean, we were all sort of going, "Oh my God, what we're going to do for the next 5 weeks? That's going to be the weak point." But I think he's he's manned up, and this has been, he should be on the team for the next couple of years at least. And it's a viable option if when La'el Collins is getting to the end of this contract, you maybe don't extend him. You maybe look at Steele for the, particularly if he carries on this curve, and looks to improve the next couple of years as well. It's maybe time to move on from one of these guys.
No, definitely. We have got a comment in from DJ Dog, but I'm going to hold off on it just for now, just because that question does come up in a bit, so we'll whack up. But trust someone to try and throw a spanner in the works. For G, what does everybody think about this? Who's tuning in? I'll let you run with it first, Lorne, and see what you say, because I feel like I bashed Williams a lot this season, so somebody else can have a go.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think one of the things, this is a lot of people having a bit of short-term memory. I think when Collins was playing guard, a lot of people were questioning whether he would actually be better as a tackle, because there was some good plays where he was, when he was coming out and sweeps and power runs where he was pulling. That was where you were seeing him doing a good job. You were seeing him hitting the first man, breaking off that and taking out safeties or whatever. When he was playing as a pure pocket passing guard, I think a lot of people had issues with his technique there and suggested that he would be a better tackle. Again, I've wondered whether Williams is probably better suited as a tackle as well. It's something I've voiced quite a lot that, why were we using Williams as a centre when he was probably, should be a consideration for swing tackle. It's difficult when you spent the whole of your college career playing one position to then come in and try and change your body, change your techniques and understanding of the offensive line. But I think Williams in some respects has had a bad rap with all these holding calls, but I mean, holding happens on every play. It's whether the refs call it or not. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, if you're losing the battle and it's a choice between 10 yards or your quarterback lying on a stretcher getting carted off the field, you're more likely to take the holding penalty. You can come back from 1st and 20. You can't come back from Cooper Rush and as your starting quarterback for the next 6 weeks or whatever.
No, I agree, and I think it kind of was a little bit touched a few weeks ago, wasn't it? Where there was rumours going around that the Cowboys had asked Zach Martin to play left tackle, and he said that he didn't really want to shift over there. And you touched on it there with Williams, and I agree in terms of that. And I know we are on that. Our second love in American football is the Texas Longhorns, but so we've seen him play a lot over the last few years. And he was one of the better offensive linemen in the in college football. And like I say, why move him into a position that he's not really accustomed to? Yeah, he played there a little bit in college, but his predominant position was a tackle. So why take that away from him? And could that be why we've not really seen the best of Connor Williams since he's come into the league?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine year one when he came out, he had that build of being an offensive tackle. Guards are generally a bit stockier, a bit stronger, and you saw that in between the two off seasons, there was he'd obviously spent a lot of time in the gym reworking his body, became that stocky guy, but I mean, he doesn't seem to have the strength that Zach Martin has. Now, whether that's technique as well, or because you can have all the strength in the world, but if you don't know how to use it on the field, who was it? Isaiah Stanback on one of the podcasts this week was talking about how he used to be able to lift more than one of his teammates when he was trying out as a tight end for the Jaguars at the later end of his career. He used to be able to lift more in the gym than I think it was Mercedes Lewis. But Mercedes Lewis could push these guys out of the way when they were on the field, and that's because he knew how to use his strength better than Isaiah Stanback could. It's not just what strength you put on in the gym; it's knowing how to use it properly.
I think,
and at the moment, people are saying that we should put McGovern in at guard, but I'm quite enjoying seeing him as a fullback. So,
you can't beat a guy like that. It brings back memories of the late 80s, early 90s, that kind of stuff. When kind of, I know it's obviously different to like when the Fridge did it for the Bears, but it's like you love to see a big man make a big play like that. I think, I sadly put the comment up pretty quick and then took it back down, and I got a bit trigger happy. But looks like Paul must be tuning in from the pub because we've had a message to say that he's rather worse for wear. Will probably the best way to say it. And Mike was going to try and join us, but he's just dropped a message to say that he's not going to make it on. So yes, sadly for everybody, they have to put up with me and you for however long we. But yeah, get the comments in, guys and girls. We want to know what who your MVPs are so far. So if you just catch up, we've got the MVP of the offense, and then you're in from the offensive line. But then let's move on to then. So most improved player on the offensive side of the ball. There's quite a few players that could match up for this. There's a few he's overachieved, a fair word to use, and it's just that they've caught the eye because we've not really seen much of them over the last few years because of the abundance of talent we've got on this side of the ball.
Well, I mean, again, who do you pick? There's a lot of guys. Obviously, we've been talking about Steele there for the last 5 minutes. You could say he's improved. For me, I think Dalton Schultz is the one. Obviously, this time last year he was just on the beginning of, Blake Jarwin had been out, and he was becoming the first string tight end. But I think he's taken a step up this year, and a lot of the catches last year was he was make the catch and that was it. He was tackled where he caught it. This year he's become a big target, and I think he's on pace. If you're talking at the moment, we've got Lamb and Amari Cooper being up for 1,000 yards. I think he's on a pace to be just there or thereabouts as well. So I mean, potentially you've got You've potentially got Zeke and Pollard both being 1,000-yard running backs, 2,000-yard receivers, and 1,000-yard tight end. So I think Schultz for me, I think has been the one that's taken his to the next step as well.
Yeah, and I think they I know, especially from me, and we'd had a few chatters in some of the build-up shows, that the tight end position, was kind of ripped apart a little bit on it, in terms of saying it wasn't probably good enough, but because of the wide receivers and the backs that we've got, that we could probably get away with having maybe a bit of a depleted tight end depth chart. But they've both definitely stepped up, like you're saying. If 1 week, if it's Schultz, and then if he's got a bit of a quiet game, and it's just they're taking it in turns out there, and that's what you like to see. I don't think there's, although we've got some big names on this roster, it's finally balanced for me. I think it's no one wants to hog the limelight. Everyone seems to be on the same page. A few people have mentioned, and you mentioned there, I think for me, it's got to be Tony Pollard for me. Came in, Kate, when we drafted him, a little bit of a dynamic back, bit of a change of pace kind of guy. But especially kind of his rookie year, you saw him a little bit too eager sometimes, not letting the play build, not letting the offensive line get their job done before trying to get the putting in the runs. But I think this year, definitely, we've seen a massive improvement. He seems a lot more patient, seems a lot more confident taking the ball up the middle, doesn't always seem to bounce it out wide. And like I say, how often do you get a backup running back that's on pace for 1,000-yard season? We touched on it a couple of weeks ago. It reminds me, this running back core now reminds me just a little bit the Marion Barber, Felix Jones kind of set up. Nice big power back, and a bit of an elusive back as well. Fingers crossed we can keep churning them yards out. Like I say, not just he seems he's made some pretty decent catches as well. He's good coming out of the backfield with it as a receiver as well. So I'd say he's definitely improved his game all around, and this scheme that Kellen Moore's running seems to fit him perfect.
Yeah, there's a couple of good points there by DJ Dog. Obviously, Zeke's remodeled himself. He's come in leaner. Cooper's come in leaner. I think everybody actually, there must have been a change of philosophy on the team to become leaner, faster, and more explosive. You're seeing it. Zeke's obviously, I think last season, Zeke was close to 1,000 yards. There was talk during most of the games. A lot of the commentators were saying that Zeke isn't a typical sort of Mike McCarthy offense running back. That, yes, he's always had somebody like Aaron Jones, who is a big guy, but probably even bigger than Zeke in some respects, but certainly was able to do more coming out of the backfield and catching passes. Zeke this year, I mean, obviously we saw the off-season videos of him running in and out of garbage cans, and that's obviously shown that he's slimmed down. He's put on this. He's put on the speed. He's more agile, I think, and obviously as a result of that, he hasn't lost anything with his blocking technique, so that he can do absolutely everything. And I think just the fact that this team are being completely selfless in what they're doing. Zeke says, if we win the game, I'll block 50 times. I'll block every single play. If it means that everybody else is scoring, he'll do whatever it takes. We're finding with all these guys, nobody is coming to the huddle and saying, "God, I'm open." Give me the goddamn ball. Which, could you imagine that happening when it was Witten and Dez in the roster? I'm sure they were coming to the line all the time and arguing that they wanted the ball. This whole team, everything seems to change this year, and they realize that they've got to make the most of it. Everything is fleeting in the NFL, and it literally is. To hark back to the old speech from Any Given Sunday, it is a game of inches. That you one step too slow, and you miss out on something. So
yeah, DJ Dog puts it perfect there.
Yep.
And they're saying that's what it seems to be like across the whole roster. And they're saying I think that's why Hard Knocks is so good, because you kind of get to see a little bit more than you usually do. And yeah, there's just a buzz about it when. Sorry, it's just.
I know.
News on it tonight, innit? The Cowboys in the division. I think they've already won it. I can't see nobody else challenging us for the division this year. It's ours to lose. The only ones that's going to shoot ourselves in the foot is us. Yeah. So should we move on from that? Cheers for that, G. Favorite playmaker of the season so far? Like I said, everybody, if tuning in, drop us your line, get involved with us. This shows as much as yours as it is everybody else's. So yeah, we want to hear from you as well. So drop us a line. Who's your favourite playmaker so far on the offensive side of the ball?
I think again, how do you pick? I mean, you could obviously CD Lamb has been big focus in the offense. He's came on there with 2 touchdowns last week. Amari Cooper's playing with God knows how many niggles and body complaints, and yet he's making plays when he needs to make it scoring. I think for me though, Cedric Wilson. I mean, when he has things like the 4th down touchdown in the Philadelphia game, where it was precision pass, right at the, Dak's rolling out, considering is trying to scramble for the ball. Last second, he sees Wilson right at the corner of the end zone. Wilson keeps his feet in bounds. Wilson's done a couple of that on the sideline as well this year, and there was a couple of catches on, I think it was 4th and 4. There was a game-saving catch as well, or drive-saving catch that he made as well. That he seems to have really come on in the last couple of years. And again, as everybody's been saying, it's a contract year for him. Will he continue to be like that next year as well if we re-sign him? But I think Wilson for me has probably been the biggest playmaker at times when Gallup or not Gallup, Lamb or Cooper or maybe the ones that the defense would be expecting us to go to, and Wilson steps up and rewards our faith in him.
Yeah, I think anybody you pick, you couldn't argue. You couldn't really argue against, could you? Like I say, just for the fact that this team seems a lot well balanced on the offense this year. I touched on Tony. We all touched on Tony Pollard a little bit ago. Zeke's improving week by week. Dak, every season you just see that natural progression. He's looking phenomenal this year. I was thinking earlier on the dinner break earlier on, thinking, do you know what, actually, could he actually be the MVP of the league this year? He's playing at such a high level. But yeah, I think CD Lamb, there's just something special about this kid, and to think that he's in what was it, year 2, I still don't think we've seen the best of him. Still a young guy. He just sucks at the university they played at, because we obviously have just such a disrespect, or a hatred for him. But when you take it out, but God, yeah, it's this. I still can't believe that teams passed upon him. I still think he was the best wide receiver in the draft. When we drafted him last year, I think there was nobody anywhere near him. He dominated for Oklahoma. He's stepped in, and saying sometimes, even last year, sometimes you see wide receivers come into the league and are kind of protected a little bit. I mean, in terms of you don't want to just throw him in there. I think we saw it a little bit with Dez, didn't we? When Dez first come into the league, he wasn't thrown in there. We all knew he was obviously drafted to be wide receiver 1. But you saw him a lot on special teams. move around a little bit, and I think obviously there's that much confidence. It could just be the way that the game's going now. Is like you spend such a high draft pick on someone, you've got to throw him in, and he's taking it. He's taking it in his stride, and like I said, I think there's a lot more to come. He keeps going as he is. You can have a strong case to say that he's currently the best wide receiver in the league. Give it another 18, 24 months.
Yeah. I mean, as long as he's getting tutored from Amari Cooper on how to run routes, which you saw it in the Hard Knocks. One of the things about Cooper, and again, this goes to the unselfishness of everybody on this team. Cooper is quite happy to go and talk, and you saw it with a lot of positions this year where Tank was going to talk to Kamara and things like that. They're willing to coach up these young guys who are ultimately coming to try and take their job, and garner the cash that these guys are taking home. And they're communicating, they're trying to build them up. They're trying to get this team to go as far as it can by getting these guys, not worrying about their long-term future, but build the team, get it going. And this one here, I think it's Ruggs, isn't it? Though I wouldn't have taken either of them. I was jumping for joy when Lamb dropped in our laps. Obviously, we weren't expecting us to actually pick him, but when a guy like that actually drops into your lap, you've got to take him. And that faith that we've put in him has ultimately been rewarded and should reward us for the next couple of years as well.
No, yeah, definitely. Like I said, DJ Doug puts it perfectly there, and I think it was touched upon someone. Was it the draft press conference after the drafted CD Lamb, that the Cowboys front office actually said as well that CD Lamb was it top 3, top 5? I can't remember, that they had him as at least in the top 5 on their draft board going into day one. So I think where did he fall? Was it about 17? I can remember off the top of my head.
17 we picked him up at, and I think they had them as they're certainly within the top 5 of their picks. I think they even said that obviously they didn't think they'd be they didn't need to be in the position for the quarterbacks that were coming out that year, but outside of the quarterbacks that were going fast and furious, Lamb was probably their top offensive pick that they had the highest grade on.
And I know some of them things in it, like you say, I think we all wanted defense, and that's no disrespect to CeeDee Lamb. It was just that the defense needed some work on it, and there was some top players there. But if anybody tuned in last week when we had Brad Sham on, he hit the nail on the head perfectly, didn't he? You go for the best, unless, like you say, unless you need a quarterback. That's right. If you've already got your franchise quarterback, I believe to have your franchise quarterback, and you've got a top 3-4 pick, and there's the best quarterback in the draft there, you don't take him, do you? You set a quarterback, but yeah, like you say, it's one of the things on the defensive side of the ball where you say you can never have too many pass rushers. Well, I suppose you can never really have too many playmakers on your team to make your team better.
And I mean, as Stephen Jones has said on 5-3 The Fan, I mean, they actually got 2 guys that they were considering for first-round picks, because obviously they got Diggs in the second round, which, they'd actually considered taking him at 17 as well. So, I mean, that draft last year was just, they were probably wondering who the hell who'd given them the genie in the bottle to get 3 wishes and get all the picks that they wanted. So, and if you look at all these picks from the last 2 years that are still on this roster, it just goes to show how we've got faith in the guys that we've got coming on, and these guys are actually performing this year. I mean, obviously we're talking about defense next week, but the guys like Golston and Odigizua, and okay, we should see Kelvin Joseph back in the next couple of weeks. You might see a little bit of Nashon Wright later on in the season as well. So, but we can actually we're not asking these guys to step up immediately and become big contributors. But everybody, the guys that we weren't expected to be rotational players to begin with, they've come into this league taking possessions, and they're earning playing time on their own rights, and they're rewarding the team for it as well. So
no, definitely. I think G brought up a good one. I think so it probably slides us in nicely. So if we'll tackle this one that G's putting, and then we'll pay the bills, and we'll get into the last bit of the section. But I just had a look at the division. I don't know about who you're thinking.
I think realistically for me, Washington is probably
that's what I had.
The one. Obviously, that defense with Chase Young and the amount of draft capital that they've put into that defensive line. I mean, that team should be playing a lot better. Obviously, they've been hindered from the fact that Fitzmagic lasted 20 minutes in week one before going down for a bit. I think he's due to come back. If he's not already back on the roster, he should be being activated shortly from IR. If he can get back and perhaps lead the team, I think Heineke's actually been a bit of a diamond in the rough for him. Obviously, he's not had the supporting cast on the offense, I think, to really thrive. But I mean that defense last week. If you look at the Pat Mahomes last week, I mean, what was it? He had 3 interceptions or something like that, or three turnovers to begin with, and it actually looked like Washington were going to maybe produce an upset last week before Mahomes actually settled himself after half time and blew them away in the second half. So, Washington are certainly dangerous, I think.
I love that comment there by DJ Dog. Yeah, throwing some shade on the rest of the East. I love it. That instantaneously I thought the Washington football team. I almost went back on the old school name there. but yeah, that defense has been built up brilliantly. Chase Young is just he were a beast coming out of college on him. It's a shame that he ended up on that team. But like I said, could you say obviously a little bit of tinkering offense, but to get the right quarterback in, and they're going to push them. I know there's rumors going along at the minute, and
kind of three-way trade with Houston and Miami, so that Miami get Deshaun Watson, Tua goes to Washington, and I don't know. I think ends up being about 3 draft picks, 3 first rounders that Houston's wanting. I think.
Yeah, and I just don't think, for me anyway. In terms of when you look at it with your head screwed on, heart saying taking, because I don't think. I mean, you want him to be as weak as possible, but Ed's thinking that he's not. I don't think he's a right fit for Washington. I just don't think that he's the guy that would take them on. So, as a Cowboys fan, I'd be like, yeah, do it, get it done. As a football fan, I just don't think it's the right move.
Graham, sorry, Jamie, I'm just going to pop away for 2 seconds. I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah. So while Lorne pops away, then we'll give a quick shout as we do to paying the bills. So if now things are starting to get a little bit back to normal and we can start going to games and stuff, if you're planning on heading out to the States to watch a Cowboys game, be sure to check in with our friends. Cowboys Experience for the ultimate Cowboys experience, from game day packages, tailgating, meet and greets. From on that, you can meet former players from the original 88, Drew Pearson, up to current players. There's Micah Parsons that's on there. You can also meet Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders who don't want to meet any of those, and also you get to interact with fellow Cowboys fans. Be sure when you book with them to use the discount code of UK Cowboys, and if you do, I'm hoping G's going to put in a comment here and say why you should do. But if you do use the UK Cowboys fans discount code, and you'll get some free stuff. So yeah. We always harp on about these guys week in, week out. It's a great experience. So yeah, be sure to use them. So I think what we're going to do is when we get Lorne back as he's in, he's dropped in perfectly just as we finished the shout out there. What we'll do is we'll touch on these 3 points, and then we'll crack on with what bye week is like for us all. But the first one. Right, we'll do it this way. So, Mike McCarthy, right man for the job?
I think so. I think obviously a lot of people are questioning, the odd call that he makes. Why did we call a timeout? Obviously, in the most recent game, why did we call out a timeout with 24 seconds left? Before that game-winning kick. That a lot of people are saying, but we won the game. Why the hell are people questioning these sort of things? We're 5-1. Every mistake or questionable call that have been made so far have been in games where we've won. Obviously we've got two very bright coordinators in Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore. I think Mike McCarthy has probably been great in that he hasn't tried to tinker with the offense too much. He actually said in an interview with one of the networks during training camp that it doesn't matter what his relationship is with Dak Prescott. The main relationship that Dak Prescott should have is with Kellen Moore. And I think that is true. Obviously, you need to have a good relationship with your offensive coordinator and your quarterback. And, obviously they've had that from where Kellen Moore was on the team with him as well. He was a teammate, and now he's obviously risen up to be QB coach and then to be the offensive coordinator. McCarthy, I think, again, we've seen it with the Hard Knocks, things like this mojo moment. Yes, okay, it's something that a lot of people are taking the mickey out of, but the players are buying into it, and it's the same with obviously when Garrett was the coach, a lot of every player was sort of saying, oh yeah, we're just trying to build on practice each day, stack one good practice on top of another. This is another thing that the team are showing this year, that you got to be ready to step up when the game's on the line. You got to be ready to step up, and I think all of these guys, again, it goes to show with the unselfishness as well. These guys are saying, I'm ready to step up if I need to, but I'm not arguing that I need the ball, and I think I think what Mike McCarthy brings is that he can be a leveler for everybody, so that nobody is getting too big-headed about how they're playing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could question whether people on the defense are maybe taking this. Obviously, McCarthy on Monday night said that he told everybody to be careful this week. Look after each other. Don't do anything that will get you in hot water. And obviously, we then see the news about DeMonte KZ, which as it's been talked about, all these guys, because they're in the NFL, they've got numbers that they can phone. They can get free Ubers. Don't even have to pay for the Ubers. The NFL pays for it. And if you're there's guys that you can phone, and they can even bring a friend, and that friend will drive your £100,000 car back to wherever it is you're going as well. If you've gone out and you've suddenly had a drink and thought, well, I shouldn't be back, but where I've stored the car's not safe, there are ways around it that these guys have that obviously you and I don't have. They don't have, we don't have that sort of resource. But how something like that can happen with the Cowboys. I mean, why somebody's not bringing up the story of Josh Brent and Jerry Brown? Obviously, that was a really bad story from the Garrett years, where obviously during the bye week they went out drinking. One of them Josh Brent drove, totaled the car, killed Jerry Brown, and that's something he's been living with ever since. But I think McCarthy, yes, I think McCarthy's earning is, I think he is a good coach. And yes, a lot of people are saying, we may have to get rid of McCarthy at the end of the year if we want to keep Kellen Moore on. But I think, the way this offense is, as long as we don't lose too many weapons at the end of the year, Nussmeier could probably take on Kellen Moore's job. And yes, okay, McCarthy may need to get involved a little bit more then, but Nussmeier's a capable offensive coordinator as well.
Yeah, just a big shout out to Brando as well for putting the comment. I totally agree there. No disrespect to Jason Garrett, but it got stale at the end. You could tell. And I was an advocate of that. Had we wasted this talented roster and not kind of kicked the bucket a lot sooner? But I think definitely Mike McCarthy was the right choice for this team. I think it needed someone that had been there before. There was all the talk of the fallout of between him and Aaron Rodgers, but that's what happens when you've got a quarterback that's up there in definitely inside the top 10, if not top 5 of all time. They're going to push.
Just think, I mean, people were asking. Yeah, I mean, people were demanding that we at least interview Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley, whatever. Look at how Urban Meyer has been this year. I mean, God, he's got a fascination with tight ends, obviously, but
wow. I like how you played.
Obviously, he brings Tebow in, and then he obviously goes out to bars looking for tight ends as well.
Long throwing the shade out tonight on that one. But yeah, I think it's going to make a sideways move into the kind of the next one we're going to do. But I think, that especially when we're not in a rebuild as well. So why? And this is no disrespect to kind of like an Urban Meyer kind of hire, because if you're going to hire someone like him, then why not do it like the Jags have done at the start of a rebuild? Don't bring in someone that's got no even NFL experience whatsoever, kind of thing, into a team that's prime. Like I say, a couple of additions there and there. And this team is primed for a long run at the big dance at the end of the year, and I think it's gonna end up at. Well, fingers crossed. Ultimately, I always saw it as he was kind of the not so much, probably the bridge is probably the wrong word to use, because I don't think he's a bridge in terms of we're settling for him. He's the right guy to guide us forward, to then eventually pass us on to Kellen Moore, which then shuts us into the final part of this segment. Anyway, Kellen Moore, what do you all think of him as a play caller?
I mean, I've always thought that, Kellen Moore's been good. Obviously, the last couple of years we've had offenses, even with the down year last year, we had an offense that was at least in the top half of the NFL. Prior to that, we did have the number one offense at one point. I think obviously the complaint has always been a bit, and we've always discussed it, has been what he does in the red zone. And I think we're seeing progress this year with the red zone. Obviously, we've had a few issues the last couple of weeks where we can't punch it in from the one on quarterback sneaks, but then that's the referees as much as anything as well. Obviously, I think Belichick last week had given a little bit extra bonus to the referees last week as well. You know, the old moniker that the Patriot stands for pay all the referees in order to succeed, I think is fairly apt. But I think Kellen Moore is you know, he's got the capability here where he, you know, what they were saying is obviously it's the offense that he's developed is basically a pick your own poison. It's not a case of take Zeke out and that's us. We're headless. You know, you've got the one thing is obviously they scripted to stop Zeke, but you actually saw that Pollard was running the ball effectively last week. You know, we still got 100 combined. We still got 100 yards rushing last week. We got 445 yards passing off Dak. You know, it's most yards that a Belichick defense since he's been at New England. It's the most yards that a Belichick defense has actually given up as well. You know, so that just goes to show what Kellen Moore is able to put together. Obviously, he's got the players on the field that he can, you know, he can justify or he can prove that, you know, he's putting these guys in the right position. He's calling the right plays. Could he do that with, I don't know, with Jacksonville? But you can only do with what you've got. And I think Kellen Moore's doing a great job.
Yeah, and I like the comment there from DJ Dog. It's like in a lot of sports, in it, and I always like. Everyone knows that I'm a massive Leeds fan when it comes to footy this side of the world, and we've always been renowned to have a really good academy. And I always think that if they're good enough, they're old enough. Young players always are eager to see the field in any sport. So why not give them a shot? And I think we're reaping the benefits of that definitely this year. Look at how many young players we've seen a lot of the field and playing to a high level. I think the only worry I have with Kellen Moore, and it's nothing to do with kind of the play calling stuff. I think he's a great play caller. He's definitely going to be a head coach at some point. But it's getting to that season now, isn't it, where teams are starting to get a bit trigger happy, and the firing code. We've obviously had the situation up in Vegas, and the Raiders have got rid of Gruden. But it's getting to the point now where teams are going to get trigger happy and be like, you know what, let's pull the trigger and let's look into a new direction. And we're seeing it a little bit in college at the minute. I think that the Cowboys are hoping that Kellen Moore will be the head coach going forward at some point. A little bit of a worry is that the LSU job just come up. I know he turned down Boise, which was his college team, obviously. Growing up. So Jerry and Stephen in the front office clearly were able to talk him out of that. But LSU is a powerhouse out there. I know they're struggling at the minute in college football, but could LSU tempt him? And would you then pull the trigger on McCarthy to keep Moore, or would you risk losing Kellen Moore and saying, well, let him take an interview at, say, LSU and hoping that he's got the desire to want to step into that Cowboys head coaching position once Mike McCarthy steps down?
If anybody's going to talk Kellen Moore into staying, it will be Jerry. I mean, look at how McCoy's still with us, and the number of times he's been up for a GM job, and you know, all the time it's like he's being considered. No, wait a minute, he's staying with Dallas. He's still, you know, he could be he could have been a GM of Houston a couple of years ago. Hopefully, maybe would have guided Houston out of the mess that they're in at the moment. But he stayed with us because either Jerry created a new title for him, which had another vice president listed within it, or and obviously had a nice wee pay rise as well. But if Jerry's going to be able to, but then you've got to say that LSU probably have just as many financial backers as well that they'd be able to offer a similar package. So money wise, Kellen Moore could probably go to LSU just as easily and make the same sort of money, if not more, than he's getting paid at the moment in the NFL. I really don't. I want to think about the next few weeks, enjoy the ride, take this as far as we can, and then worry about it at the end of the season. And I'm sure Jerry's saying the same at the moment. He is earning as much as McCarthy is at the moment, if I remember rightly, after turning down the Boise State job. That he ended up getting the money out of Jerry. So.
Yeah, just to touch on the comment there from Graham. Just to be fair, I was playing more devil's advocate there just to see kind of what everybody's thought process was there. I think Mike McCarthy definitely deserves a heck lot of credit. He's been a breath of fresh air for this team. Like I say, it was more just to play devil's advocate. You know what I like to do, G? I like to just start to stir the pot up a little bit. Shout out to Tammy. Jumping in there, he's got a red flag for this year. Good to see him, throwing him in there. DJ Dog, spot on. If we haven't got a salary cap on that, on the head coaches, and even to Benny and to everybody else who's tuning in. So before we give a shout out to the other content, let's finish off this segment. So everybody jumping in, everyone's seen how this team's playing so far this year. Everyone will have opinion, but what's been your signature game this year, everybody? That could be your favourite game, or which one do you think's been important so far to our season?
I think it's a toss-up between the first game that we played this season and the last game that we've played so far this season. A lot of people were saying that we were going to go into Tampa Bay and we were going to be 10, 15-point underdogs. We were going to get blown out by Tom Brady and the returning Super Bowl champions with the full 22 starters. If you think about it, if Greg Zuerlein had maybe had another couple of weeks in training camp, sharpened his skills a little bit better, we would have made the extra point. We would have maybe made one of the two kicks that he field goal misses that he had, and potentially we could have come out of that game with a win. Equally, how many times in the past few years have we been in a game like the Patriots where the refs have been against us with bad calls, like again, not wanting to harp on about it, but that quarterback sneak on third down, that should have been a touchdown. How many times would the team just have crumbled in the second half on the back of that? The fact that we came down straight after Bourne had scored the 75-yard TD, that could have been a backbreaker for a team, but no, Dak marches him down. Obviously, even going into overtime as well, the fact that we lost the coin toss in the overtime, there was no hesitation, get the ball back, and Dak then obviously moves the ball. Eagles game was fun as well, Graham. Yeah, definitely. But for me, I think it's those two have been the sort of pivotal points of this season.
Yeah, I think for me, definitely the Patriots game. I threw a comment in to the guys on the show on Tuesday that the Patriots game was, I think that was a game that this team needed in terms of to show the rest of the league what they're made of. I think if that would have been a Cowboys team from a couple of years ago, after that 75-yard touchdown, just after we scored to go in front, I think we would have crumbled, and it would have been one of those where it would have derailed our season a little bit. But the way that they kind of plugged in, dug deep, and kept going, like you say, even though they lost the coin toss to start overtime, and managed to hold the Patriots and get them to a stop, just showed that this team's probably got the hunger a little bit more than they have done over the last few years. Or there's definitely a lot more belief in there that they can get to the Super Bowl. And I'm fully confident. I'm on Richie's train of Super Bowl, baby. I mean, that's what we needed. This team's legit this year. It's going to take a lot to stop us. We've still got some of our top players. Like I say, we've got Michael Gallup due back, and we touched on it earlier on. It could be a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 at any other team in the NFL, and he's a wide receiver 3 on us. So it just shows the abundance of talent we've got that side. We've got our best pass rusher to come back. We've got one of our top interior linemen to come back. We've got a rookie that's due back, a highly touted rookie, a second round pick is due anytime to come back and see the field. So the sky's the limit for this team. I can't see us being flashy in the trade deadline. I think we'll add some pieces that will keep us ticking over nicely. So yeah, that one for me is the Patriots. Let's have a look. Yeah, DJ Dog, enjoying the ride. As I say, we've got to enjoy the ride, haven't we? I think do you know what I mean? We've enjoyed some times as Cowboys fans, haven't we? People could say we haven't been relevant since the 90s, and so nobody can say that. A lot of us are. Well, I can't say anybody is a what's the word? Kind of a plastic fan kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Just jump on the bandwagon. I say bandwagon. I knew it was in there somewhere. So yeah, we've enjoyed the good times, and so aside the bad times. So now we're hopefully gonna and celebrate and enjoy some really good times.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think I did the thingy, Lon. As soon as you jumped off, so I don't know if you want to give the shout out to our content creators, and then we'll get into the last bit of the show and wind it up.
Yeah, go on. And I mean, obviously, DJ Dog there is mentioned the other content creators. I mean, anytime I'm listening to any podcast, DJ Dog seems to come up with a comment in there that gets reported. So, guys, check out all of these. Obviously, all the ones within Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys Break, Talking Cowboys, Hanging with the Boys, Players Lounge, KT Funhouse, 105.3 The Fan, Blogging the Boys, Star Gang. All of these guys are great content, and just adds to the opinions that you maybe don't normally hear, and hopefully helps develop your opinions as well.
No, definitely. So give everybody a follow, and like I say, give us a shout if you've got your podcasts as well, and we'll give them a listen and we'll give them a shout out. So yeah, gives us just nicely to wrap this up. Everybody jump in on this one because this is going to involve everybody again. Bye week sucks in terms of football, especially with the run we're on at the minute. But like I say, we had a couple of niggling issues, so it's probably come at the right time for us. But what does bye week look like for you lot? Is it sit down and you'll watch some of the games, red zone, or is it let's have some time off away from NFL and let's enjoy something else? So what like for you, Lon?
I think for me, I'll watch the red zone. It's I see a lot of people who watch red zone all the time religiously, but I mean, if the Cowboys are playing, I will watch the Cowboys game as my main focus. Getting a chance to see red zone, and yes, you get to see some of the standout performances, and it gives you a chance to look at not just one future opponent, but you'll get to see good plays from the remainder of our schedule. So that's something I'll start looking as well shortly on. Obviously, it's Minnesota that we've got next. I'll be looking at them next week as well. So it gives me a little bit of time to have a look at that. Maybe even look at it on Sunday night as well. So and catch up on some of the other college games as well. And obviously, I'm also a Stampeders fan, so I've got the Canadian ball to look out for as well. So I'll certainly be watching a lot of it. So
do you know what I think? Yeah, I think we're double whammed out with this week, especially like I say we're Texas Longhorns fans in college, and they're on bye week as well this week. So yeah, but I think for me, I think it varies week to week. But just like I say, obviously Cowboys is Cowboys. You're going to watch them regardless. But in terms of, I think it depends. So this week, a little bit different for me. I love my sports. That's rubbed off on my daughter. So now it's kind of like and Leeds has finally got itself a professional ice hockey team. They play down on the same car park as where the Leeds United Stadium is. Their season's just started, so this week for us is Sunday is going to be heading down there. They're playing Swindon this week, so we're gonna go catch their game. And it's also it's the F1 and it's over in the States this week. It's kind of the same time, so it'll be straight back from the game, staying off social media. Well, I say social media. It'll be obviously chatting to you guys while I'm out and about, but yeah, keeping kind of off Sky Sports website. Twitter stuff will be shut down, so I don't inadvertently see the Grand Prix result and come back and watch the Grand Prix and then catch the last bit of Red Zone. But yeah, so let's have what else is. I don't know. DJ Dog. I'm glad someone mentioned it. The Mavericks start tonight. Luka Magic is back. Nice little game to start off the season against Trae Young and the I was going to say the Falcons, but it's not. It's the wrong sport. It's the Hawks, isn't it?
Yep.
But yeah, so come on, we've got a couple more minutes before we go hit the hay, so to speak. So let us know what's your bye week gonna be looking at. So what you you're gonna have the eye on then Lon this week for the games that are on there. We could have got the dog in a little bit earlier. I mean, Paul has Annie in all the time.
Yeah.
In our Italian Cowboys family.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who I'm interested to see. Obviously, there are some interesting games this week. I want to see how the Browns cope tonight. Obviously, Baker Mayfield's out. I want to see I know it's Cincinnati. I want to see how Burrows does against Baltimore. There's a lot of potential good games. The Kansas City and Tennessee game, I think, is going to be a good one as well. Especially the fight that Tennessee gave towards the end of the Monday night game there as well. I mean, that helped round out a triple for me this week in my bets. So helped me finish it on the positive this week. So,
so I think we've touched on it. But yeah, thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Like we said, sadly it's bye week for the Cowboys, but I think as fans of the Cowboys, it's come as a good time for us so we can all recharge our batteries and as families can see us before the Cowboys kick back on. Be sure to tune in on Tuesday when the guys touch on the defensive side of the ball for all the stuff that we've been chatting about tonight. And thank you for tuning in, keeping interactive with us. Stay safe, have a good week, and I'm going to let you finish us off, Lon.
Yeah, okay. Have a good week, guys. Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy having the pressure of not having to worry about what the Cowboys are doing this week. Enjoy whatever it is you're doing, and look after yourselves. And I'll see you next week.
Peace out, everybody. Stay safe.